Well, hello, and welcome to part 2 of this 5-day free Bodhisattva Bootcamp, where I want to really support you in trusting that you're enough, and also trusting that you are the creator
And welcome.
of your own reality. Now, how do I do this in a way that I don't have to listen to myself? Sorry, guys, I'm trying out Zoom to broadcast to YouTube, and hey, technology is not one of my natural gifts and capacities. So if you're on YouTube, please give me a yes, you can hear me. Yes, I am streaming. And if you've lost me, I invite you to come on over to Healthy Body, Quiet Mind, Abundant Life. I mean, doesn't that just sound beautiful and what we're all aiming for? But yes, so thank you for bearing with me while I sort out some technology issues that I have been learning through imperfect action, showing up here on day 2 of the Healthy Body, Quiet Mind, Abundant, Beautiful Life 5-day boot camp, where I am really just showing up in support of you, meeting you wherever you are on your journey, and to just invite you to continue to come home to your heart. Anyone who tells you that vulnerability is easy, that to just love whatever arises is easy, I hear you, and I think that is really what my work is all about, is first of all empowering you to be your own medicine, and to also know that the power of choice is the one thing that you can be certain of is always available to you, no matter what's going on around you. So I want to speak to today in our furthering our conversation into how do you stay anchored and grounded in your truth? How do you trust that you're going to come out of COVID, or whatever other challenges have arisen because of this sort of temporary reset on the world and the way that you're doing things, and to just be able to hold whatever parts and pieces of you, and normally they're child parts that didn't feel safe enough to show up in relationship to your parents, to your primary caregivers, to your peers, perhaps in your formative years of school, and to just know that we are potent creators, and we are also far more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And I know I say this all the time if you've been part of my tribe for a while, but it really rings true for me that how we do anything is how we do everything. And we live what we learn. So it doesn't matter how good the self-help books or your business coach is, or your support team, and whether that's energetic or spiritual, we're all in this together, and we're all learning how to remember our humanity, to remember that there is no right or wrong way, or a methodology that is the only way, right? There is no formulaic process to how we show up in right relationship, not only with ourselves, but in relationship to other people, and to animals, and to nature, and to our businesses, and in our relationship with money. Everything comes from this place of, if I am not feeling safe, and we spoke about this yesterday, if you are not feeling safe to speak your truth, if you have been wronged or shamed or guilted into giving up your voice to keep somebody else in their comfort zone, you're not alone. There is nothing wrong with you. And we get to choose over and over again. This is in the practice. This is in showing up consistently over and over again with a very compassionate heart, right? to hold your child parts, to hold the wounded, frightened parts of you that are running your life. Because when we are triggered into fight, flight, or freeze, that part of our body, as I spoke to this yesterday, are going to take over. And their only agenda is to keep you alive, to keep your organism alive. That part of you is not interested, that little critter brain, that reptilian part of your brain that is frozen in the story that it's not safe to breathe, that's not safe to be seen, that it's not safe to show up and just speak your truth or be you, or that you're not enough as you are. That's the part that needs to be held with compassion and the gentleness and the patience of growing yourself up. This is what I speak of as reparenting yourself. And if you don't like where you are and you don't like what is going on in your life, that I think the gift in all of this, as it always is, but we learn through a lot of tension and discomfort. It seems like the way that we learn is, we only start to look at our life after a life-threatening illness or a pandemic like COVID, or the after effects of what else has been there all the time, but you've just been too busy or too distracted or too numbed out or too hypervigilant to actually be able to push pause and get curious about asking those parts what it is they need from you. So if you didn't listen to part 1, I suggest that you go back and perhaps take a listen. And as always, I read all your comments and I welcome your questions, because we can go so much further together. And as much as I know nothing, and I'm willing to know nothing, we learn and grow together. And for me, that makes me really, really happy to have you here as part of my tribe and to really speak your truth. There is no thing outside of any of us that makes us do or be or act or respond other than our frightened child parts, the fragmented parts and pieces of us that are desperate for your attention. So, the questions that I asked you yesterday, and would love your insight if you're listening to this now or on the replay, posted in the comments, is how can you really deliberately, very focused, very intentionally, and very lovingly choose to connect intimately, right? See inside the parts of you. This is the shadow work. And even though a lot of us are working with the light, we are ultimately all shadow dancers, right? We're dancing with our own shadows. And why I love my work with horse teachers in the Equus work, where these huge, big, powerful, beautiful animals that have endured so much with humans and still are very misunderstood as the flight animal that they are incredible mirrors, which is why the work with horses is so transformational. And I know for me, they saved me from myself many, many times. But everything in our life that triggers us, everything that is coming up from the dark recesses of our shadow, of our wounded parts, of our adaptive or maladaptive coping patterns that we developed as children, that did a really, really good job of keeping us alive then, may be hindering and harming us now. And this is where we get to go in and reset the nervous system by taking incremental 1 degree shifts at a time, so that we don't re-overwhelm or re-traumatize those parts of us that we're kind of asking to come back to us as the adult that holds it and is confident and is going to keep those child parts safe. And this is where the trusting is something that doesn't just come online overnight. It takes time. If you've ever rescued or been in the company of an animal that suffered incredible abuse, like a dog or a cat, or if you've done shelter work, or perhaps you have a rescue dog or cat or horse, you know that it's through consistently showing up in a place of, I'm showing you that I'm trustworthy, that we don't have to defend or prove anything anymore, especially to our own parts, which oftentimes we abandon and we self-shred in the judgments, in the projections that there's something wrong with us, that we're not enough the way that we are. So, we're learning, right, to bring online a more felt sense of what it needs to stay safely embodied. And I gave you an exercise or practice yesterday that really is about connecting to the body, allowing yourself to feel when you have that thought um, or judgment that comes up that says this is how it has to be, right? When you're stuck in that sort of negativity bias, or you're constantly scanning anyway, whether you're conscious of it or not. Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? To really just slow everything down. Slow everything down. Connecting to the breath is a very good way to just do that, right? I call it the pushing the pause on the world, sitting in the waiting room with whatever that emotion is that arises in you from a thought that you've had. And instead of scaring yourself sick and leaving your body because your body doesn't feel safe, you start to learn to just open up and widen the capacity to hold those parts of you, because you're creating the safety. You're willing to know that in this moment, through orientation, right, that right now I'm sitting in this room, I am safe, that you are not the story. And while you cannot change what's happened to you as far as trauma or abuse, you can transform through it when you start to do this work on a consistent basis. And it begins with learning to create a pause, a stopgap, right? A liminal space between the stimulants of what is triggering the response and actually reacting, the reactivity of that. So we're just asking to widen the gap. And, I get asked this all the time is, how do you heal? How do you, and healing just means holism, right? To come into wholeness, to bring back all these fragmented parts and pieces of you that you have denied, rejected, and abandoned because of somebody assigning or shaming or making you feel that it wasn't safe to have those parts of you exposed. It's a very dangerous place for the wounded child. So we need to be very gentle with ourselves and know that oftentimes, as I said, we're shaped by our environment, and our environment is made up with people, the same way as our relationship, in how abundant we're willing to be, how much we trust ourselves as good money, guardians of money as an exchange of our services, how we judge for our gifts in the world, are all tied up in the same energy of, if I don't feel safe enough to be seen as valuable, then that means that I am not worthy of having money, or I can't be trusted with money. And often there is a story tied up in your ancestral or your intergenerational traumas. So again, this is really about getting curious about, who does this belong to, is a wonderful question. And asking yourself, what part of me is seeing myself as the one that's shredding or saying, I can't be trusted with money, or I keep attracting narcissistic, abusive men into my life. There must be something wrong with me. And if you can stay and hold that part of you that's feeling that way, then you can get to really start to identify and name if it is is the inner critic coming from a perfectionist place of you. And remember, these are all archetypes or attachment styles that we develop in our codependent relationships, of where we've had heartbreak or betrayal, for example, of, that because this person stole money from me, that everybody isn't going to steal money from me, or that because this partner cheated on me, that every man out there is going to cheat on me. And look at the hurt part of you at the age that you were when we got trapped in that. So the original incident, the timeline where you decided that you could never, ever, ever, ever which is the promises, the oaths, the vows, the fealties, the communities, right? All the places where we compartmentalize and self-shred and reject and deny and abandon in a cry for help, right? That you're not feeling safe. So the question of, can you continue to heal and become whole if your environment doesn't support it? So in other words, if you are in a relationship with a very negative, controlling, narcissistic bully of a man, for example, one I know very, very well, it's not a yes and no answer. It's a yes and answer that perhaps certain things need to shift, or you need to set up certain lifestyle changes in order to support you while you are gaining your strength and your confidence and claiming your sovereign power back from that codependency to then take the next step. So again, it's really in the micro shifts that we're looking for change, and being very loving and patient and curious, to be aware so that you can really track, where did you decide that thing or that idea or that conclusion or that person, right, the concept of that money is evil is more valuable to hold in place and make true, right? The lie, where are you making the lies true? That actually, if you could see them for what they were, would set yourself free, would set you free to be you. So, I want you to really look at tracking your value systems. Where are you creating value, right? The reward system. Oftentimes, a lot of HSPs and empaths are more driven or motivated by the punishment, right? Because punishment is something that you've learned to cope with or control in your adaptive style of attachment to keep yourself safe as a child, right? Those survival patterns are set up very early on in life. So for you, punishment or pain is comfortable, even though it's not. It feels safe for you to stay in that space, which is why we often attract the same kind of person. There's predictability in it. So, track your value systems. Look at what do you hold valuable in your life. Where are you putting value and meaning making outside of your own worth, your own value? And see what shows up. Be curious here, because the duality in all of this is the yes and. So replace the buts in your life, the yes but or if only, and the shoulding and the coulding, and the self-shredding of, I'm going to abandon myself, right? I'm going to give myself up. I'm going to hurt me before anybody else gets to hurt me. And see what the value is in doing that to yourself, because this is where the gold, this is where you can really mine the gold. There's a lot of insight that we hold when we are able to stay in the discomfort, go deeper into the shadows. This is how we get to the root cause of when we decided, right? The thoughts, the feelings, the decisions, the judgments, the conclusions, the computations, all the mental aspects of, if I could just understand this, or if I could just fix this, or if I could just be more, right? The perfectionism, the addict shows up in that. Then I can have, fill in the gap, more money, love, whatever it is for you. So just remember, we're mercurial. We're not, it's never one thing that's going to make everything change for you, to create more safety in your body, to have more confidence in your life, to trust your intuitive process, to listen to your body and your gut knowing. It's a combination of staying with it and celebrating and acknowledging, right? You've got to know that you're traumatized first and name it before you can start to change it. Then you can actually start building the momentum through the 1 degree shifts, the incremental shifts that end up being massive radical transformation. So, we really want to look at today in the certainty of knowing that people are gonna respond and show up and trigger you and push your buttons and keep you in a place where they feel safe because you're predictable. So the certainty or the uncertainty lies in letting go of the predictability, the same old operating that is now becoming habitual on your nervous system. It takes time to lay down new neural pathways. And, I'm not here to make you feel good, although only you can do that. But I'm here to teach you to trust your own truth, to trust your own intuition, to be your own medicine, to show up in that space that you get to inspire and be the catalyst for others, to take back your power in how you're showing up in your relationships, whether that's parenting, whether that's in business, whether that's with your money, whether that's with your lover, whether that's in a friendship that is codependent. And I'm not saying codependency is wrong. When there's balance in that, it becomes co-regulation, right? Healthy growth, because you know how to self-regulate. Your nervous system has the capacity to hold you in your truth from a place of love that's not always comfortable, so that the other person gets to choose whatever they're choosing. There's no disappointment in that space because you're just open to whatever it is in your own process, nothing to hide, nothing to prove. So, you want to look at your value system. What beliefs and attitudes do you have in your life? How are you showing up? Where do you find yourself valuable, or where have you negated that you have any value in your gifts and your capacities, in your ability to have a healthy body and a very calm nervous system, so that you can focus on co-creation and collaboration and creating a beautiful future for yourself and your family, and the people that you love and the animals that share your life with. So, we need to be able to recognize as well. And again, this comes back to how can you hold yourself in a compassionate place of being just the inner silent witness for the frightened parts to tell you what they need, right? We talked about this yesterday. What do you want? What do you need? Not from the adult now, but from the child part that is creating the inner protest and causing overwhelm and uncertainty. Remember, overwhelm, confusion just means I need more information here. So what information do you need in order to validate that there's a part of you that isn't feeling safe right now? And remember, when you're in it, when you're triggered, when you're down in the shadow, when your internal protest is screaming and kicking up a fuss, you can't see it when you're in it. That's why they're called blind spots. They're called blind spots for a reason. And this is where beautiful community, where we can co-regulate like this in the Healthy Body, Healthy Mind closed Facebook group, are such beautiful containers for experimentation, for exploration, for asking someone to be an anchor for you, to remind you, hey, when you see me going into that place, I might snap your head off in the moment. This is the agreement that my daughter and I made a long time ago, after I was deeply, deeply sorry for reacting in a way that brought up a lot of shame for me afterwards. But it was to say, hey, if you see me do that thing again, please know it's not personal, first of all. And it has nothing to do with how I love you in that act of violence that I am acting out against myself and against you, and in the love that I have in reverence and honoring of our relationship. But could you just tell me? Could you maybe just give me a sign? This is we're in relationship, putting your hand up, saying, time out, or just saying, I have to, could you just give me a moment? I'm not in a space right now where I can actually show up for you. And yes, I might bite your head off, or I might raise my voice, or it might feel very frightening for you to be that anchor for me. But I so appreciate your courage in doing that in that moment of our interaction. This is how we create right relationship. And I give you a lot more of these tools inside of the shadow dancing class. So if you're interested in that, drop me a mail. I'm not here to, it's not a pitch fest. I'm not selling you anything at the end of this. This is really just me showing up in celebration and also in co-regulation and collaboration, that, you're not alone, that you are enough. And while you're trusting that you are, let me be that steak, let me be that medicine for you, if you can't find it somewhere else. But just know that, whenever you go into the shadow, whenever there's a reactivity to that internal protest, it's another one of those paradigms, that we get to shift out of through the power of true choice, not choice made from a place of fear or choice made from an old story that's running our lives. But when we are in that space of a very calm, centered, grounded, focused, wise adult who has brought herself off the proverbial cliff and into a place where we can start asking these generative questions. So just know you're going to want to go into the right and the wrong and the good and the bad and the either or reality of it, because we've been, that's the programming we've all been hooked into for our whole lives and probably a couple of lifetimes before that. And this is the practice. This is the mastery of really stepping out into your own trust, into your own intuitive process. And I know, because I've been there and I've screwed it up many times myself. It can be a very slippery slope in relationship when you can't, or you don't have the mirroring of someone that can step back and go, how old is the part that I'm speaking to now? We don't language like that, obviously, but you could, just to say, I feel you hurting right now. How can help me to understand what it is that you need? Because a lot of the time we don't even know what we need because it's so deep seated, it's so unconscious that, when we can be in right relationship with ourselves to do this deeper inquiry work, to go into the shadows, to self-regulate in a way through the breath, through journaling, through meditation, through forums like this, then we get to really expand out of that, and be willing to be free rather than right and defending your point of view. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. So let me be that anchor for you, and just trust that there isn't just one way to get there. There is only your way for now in this moment. And I remember once asking my sister's boyfriend, I maybe was 18 or 19 at the time, and I didn't know who the heck I was yet either. None of us did. And I just was very intuitive. I could sense when things went wrong, because that's what happens when you are a parentified child in a way, or you are, you grow up in a house, you're an adult. You're an adult survivor of an alcoholic or narcissistic or dysfunctional family. You're always looking for exit strategies, and that that for me was my disorganized attachment style of bouncing around a lot. And on top of that, I'm a Gemini with my moon in Virgo, and so I am mercurial, right? Because I was always adopting a stance for whatever environment I was in order to create or keep myself feeling safe or in control when things were not in control, always looking for exit strategies. And a lot of you that have worked with me, that we share a lot of those sort of common traits in in the birth families, right? In the ancestral trauma lines that we've come here to change by being that in our families. But I remember asking my sister's boyfriend, why he felt off to me, why he was always kind of snubbing me or cutting me short, or just felt like a total affront of pushing me away. And he said, well, because I never know who I'm talking to. And then I was like, oh, wow, because I didn't have all this work and this experience behind me, then it was just like, wow, how do I get him to like me? How do I get him to be able to be at ease with me, right? Safe enough to be himself with me when I couldn't be safe enough to be myself. So it's a really nice way to start to explore and to just realize that when we go into the places with compassion, just as we would for someone that we see hurting, when we can be that medicine for our hurt parts, then we start to be free of blame and shame and projection and pointing outwards. There's always two fingers pointing back, and we get to come back to our hearts. So that's my questioning for you today, is spend some time journaling, spend some time asking, what is sacred to you, a very different value to, what do you hold dear? What is valuable to you? What are your value systems? And who in your life are you making more valuable than yourself? Just spend some time journaling on that. And yeah, let's just close today with just a short activation, because a lot of the time you are the catalyst, right? You are the shapeshifter, the change maker for stopping some of these huge acts of violence that have been passed down on your ancestral or your intergenerational trauma lines. This is the psychic viruses that keep infecting our reality and taking us out of our present, putting us in the past, so that we can't actually see where we are now to even begin to find some kind of confidence in what future we're creating. So just take a few moments. I invite you to just feel your feet on the floor, sending out those beautiful tap roots, just as a forest is interconnected in the moist dampness of the forest. Everything is connecting to everything else. This beautiful landscape of nonverbal communication that happens in nature. Knowing that you're not alone, that you are so supported. Sending those taproots out to all of life, to your support teams, your energetic support teams, your physical support teams. Sending that through your sits bones down into the great crystalline grid, the molten lava core of the earth, and using an infinity sign, moving that energy up your divine line, out through the Earth Star Chakra, through your crown chakra, connecting to all galaxies, confederations, star beings, interplanetary tribe, your tribe on this earth, knowing you are supported, that you are enough just as you are. And just asking the Source Creator, Archangel Metatron, Michael, the Christ Consciousness, the Earth Keepers, your ancestors, your non-human helping spirits, calling in the Lemurians, the Arcturians, your star soul families, your tribes off-world, in this beautiful soul prayer and activation of just asking for them to support you in releasing any anger, any trauma patterns of control, domination, persecution, secret societies, fiduciary systems, churches, covens, religious cults, false prophets, anywhere where you have given yourself up and put your values outside of your control, just calling back, reintegrating the part of you that is your birthright in the Akashic record, that your cells hold that DNA, RNA, LNA, a genetic code. Of your ancestors, just cleansing, clearing, and purifying anything that doesn't allow you to access your abundance codes, your wealth codes, your value for yourself, knowing that you are your greatest asset. And when there are seemingly less resources, that you can access all the resources that are available to you, that have always been in you. And just asking for support in remembering that your needs matter, that you deserving of love, of abundance, of connection, of safety, of nourishment, both mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that you are nourished, that you are filled up. And to let go of anywhere where you filled yourself up with attitudes, beliefs, thoughts, feelings, emotions that have atrophied, entrophied, paralyzed, taken you out of positioning yourself as the light that you are, the love that you are. Anything that has taken you away from being able to stay in your body, your physical body, that is your greatest consciousness facilitator, just calling back all the parts you've disowned, abandoned, rejected, denied, cleansing out, clearing any old programs, anywhere where you felt like you can't settle in your body of work, with the land somewhere. This has certainly been running in my life right now. Definitely feeling that in the collective, that no place, right? The nomadic life, that is where safety is, to always be on the move so that nobody can touch you or find you or hurt you. Anywhere where you have been in exile, anywhere you have exiled parts and pieces of yourself, hidden aspects of yourself, created invisibility shields, cloaking systems, anywhere you're still using that so that you keep yourself safe, and it's actually causing more separation, more aloneness for you. Just gently removing those, thanking them for being there as part of your safety bubble, keeping you safe, but that you no longer need it anymore. Returning it to wherever it came from with consciousness attached. Thanking that part for keeping you alive, but that you're safe now. You've got this. And allowing yourself to be seen, to share your voice in the truth of who you are, and asking, how can I be a contribution? How can I give more generously? How can I be more presence in love? By loving myself more, by trusting myself more. So that others can find me. Remember, connection, money comes through people, resources come through people. How can I be more intimate with the parts of me that are afraid so that I can grow them up as the wise, secure adult? And just as we continue, just moving that energy up and down your divine line, connecting as above as below, creating your heaven on earth now. Calling back, continually calling back all the parts that have been persecuted, betrayed, anywhere where you still feel like it is dangerous to stay in one place, that it's not safe to settle. You're always wandering around, so you can't ever move through, see things through, complete things, stay long enough to gather tribe, to bring in clients that value your work. I definitely resonate with that one. Anywhere where you're creating allergies or intolerances through your body, and your body's making you right so that people don't get too close to you. I see this one with people being allergic to dogs or cats. So anywhere where you made a promise in another lifetime to never ever get that close or love like that again, because it was just too painful. Everywhere you've created some kind of anaphylactic shock or trauma system in your allergic response. Everywhere where you're creating an allergy to life, right? Creating your life as a headache, migraines, whatever way that you've decided to use your magic against you, against your body, to keep you safe. It's actually creating the opposite for you. Just be willing in the duality, in the paradigm shift, to just consider that that is not for your highest, greatest good, and lovingly return it to the earth for recycling. She knows what to do with it. And again, can we just release the fear? Any fear patterns, any trauma lines that are resurfacing, that are being activated right now in the collective, maybe in someone that you love, mirroring that back to the aspect of you that feels afraid, that there is not enough, never enough time, not enough resources. Anywhere where you're being triggered by the uncertainty of this pandemic, or what is going to come as this virus mutates and evolves, rather than just lovingly see where we have been out of balance with our own true nature, where the wild in you is pushing back, just as it is in nature right now, against the domestication, the programmed part of you that is perhaps showing up in the victim archetype or in some other way. Daring to be a little braver, a little more resolute, a little bit more intimate, to trust your intuition, your psychic prowess, not to give power over to. Anywhere where you have rage coming up against injustice, programs where your boundaries have been crossed, anywhere where there's been unexpected conflict, anywhere where you're denying, self-shredding, abandoning the part that needs to be at war right now, that needs to say no as a full sentence. Asking all those ancestral helping spirits, asking your team players in bodies, without bodies, in non-human form, in the natural laws and the seasonal shifts, asking them to remind you, to show you safe territory, safe embodiment, asking your body to show you what it needs in order to create safety for you to move forward. Remembering that you are enough, that you always have been enough, and that you will always create exactly what you need, beyond right or wrong or good or bad or either or reality, but in every choice that leads to the next choice in your evolution and your personal growth. And just releasing any fear of asking for what you need, for fear of judgment. So releasing any of these shame patterns of abuse, any trauma lines around guilt or judgment, any persecution complexes, matrices, categoricals around safety and tribe. Asking in powerful prayer for your body, who is your greatest consciousness facilitator, to show you, to lead you, to remind you what it's hungry for, what nourishes it in right relationship, to lead you there. And just releasing again any persecution patterns of abuse, any trauma lines from this lifetime and others. Anywhere where you are the persecutor, the witness, or the perpetrator, or the one that was harmed, that you create your own safety now. Releasing any uncertainty around that. Trusting what you know. Being divinely supported and guided to people that know what you don't know in order to support you in growing, in claiming sovereignty, in creating your own safety. Oh, feeling that shift on the collective. Doing great. And anything that has been unspoken today in the frequency of my words in our collaboration here today, allowing us the intuition, the insight, the wisdom to listen more closely to the unspoken, beyond lies, limitations, rights, wrongs, injustices, beyond meaning making, that we can receive that, encode that, download it now, as we continue to cleanse and clear and purify and transmute these old patterns of abuse and disharmony, old patterns of uncertainty, entangled in all of this in the Watiko, that we may stay present, grounded in our bodies, safely embodied, activating and moving everything through the heart, that our gatekeeper of our heart knows like it knows, that we do not need to know. Just trust our hearts. And let us just call home to our heart, asking our gatekeeper, who knows beyond time or space, dimension or reality, what it is that we need as a whole being in a holistic environment where we are all connected. To just call home all the millions and millions of wisdom codes, of magic and mastery from all our ancestors that's stored in our own genetic code, to come online and activate at the pace of our own body, to come in divine timing that is aligned with your already ascended self, so that you can download these wealth codes, these abundant codes, these health codes, rewire your nervous system, and let us activate those now. And so it is, and so it was, and so it always will be. Aho. Have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. I hope that these are supporting you. Just allow that clearing, that activation to settle, to permeate into your cells. Get yourself well hydrated. Rest if you need to rest. Move if you need to move. Dance with your shadows. Use your voice. Activate your vagus nerve, your psoas muscle, to really show you how to stay safely embodied. And I invite you to at least tag 3 friends to join this group. Share your insights, your comments, any questions that you have. And again, I just thank you for being with me on this wild ride, on this big messy experiment that is beautiful and brutal and everything in between. I appreciate your presence, your love, your attention in my world. And I hope to meet you here again tomorrow, and call in your soul tribe to meet you there. I'll be waiting. Take care. Lots of love. Bye.